The next one is Illumination Heals. I would say for me, this was a part of the spiritual path that I resisted for a while. I liked kind of the, I am spirit and dance with your spirit and all that wonderful stuff. But eventually the path led me to, from different health things or triggers that I had in my life, where I had to do some inner work, where I had to actually begin to dig in my own interior and look at what had not been healed. And I continue to do so today. It's become a lot cleaner in there, but it's not fully cleaned out. And so for me, that's a big part of the path. And it's always in my mind. I hope that my children won't have quite as much cleaning out to do. Yes?
What is there for you that you know you're not clean and that you still have more work to do? How does it...
Well, eventually to me it becomes the ecstatic peaks are wonderful and the emotional lows are hard. There's a much more sustained equanimity and neutrality in my life that to me is what awakening is all about. It's not necessarily about that nirvana I was talking about. It's sustained equanimity. And for me, it's much more longer, it's longer lasting. Okay. And that's a sign. My dips are not as low. And yet, a year and a half ago, I had back surgery. As I was becoming to really move into my work and come out as a soul nurturer, it was literally like the lower sacrum, my past, was, for 9 months, I could barely walk around the block. Really, I've never been so debilitated. The nerve was wrapped around the disc. Well, I knew that was not just because I had shoveled snow on that Groundhog Snow Day. This puppy had some legs. It had some emotional roots that ran deep. And I knew that lower back is the sign of my past. So I did a lot of work around it. I worked with my journaling, meditation. I was in a channeling class for 2 years in the city of Chicago. I worked with a channel, medical intuitive, traditional doctor too, because I knew that there was a lot of juice there. There was something that wasn't healed. And it had to do with my mother and her mother. And this idea that extreme empathy is the only lens through which you see the world. It's always about the other person. It's not ever about factoring you in. That has been one of my biggest shadows. The back was like the final straw. I had broken it down a little bit, but not enough. That I actually do have a right to self-love and factoring myself in. And yes, I can love the other person, but not at the expense. And I woke up one night sobbing at 4 a.m., and there was the feeling of the deepest self-betrayal I've ever experienced. That in my life, my mojo, my tendency was to betray myself for the sake of all others. And it was one of the biggest epiphanies I've ever had. I still had to get the surgery. I couldn't have healed it. I wanted to. I think in a different collective consciousness, we can begin to heal more of those things. But it was the inner healing that I took on as my responsibility. And I have to say, right along with that physical pain, for the first time going through a dark night, and I've had some dark nights, like all of you, I'm sure, different deaths, different challenges, health issues, right along with that physical pain, where I couldn't even really go to the grocery store for my family. I'd go in with my husband, and I would just say, I got to go sit in the car. I couldn't sit in a subway line with my kids. I would just get in there and sit down. I could not stand. Was an unbelievable joy, right overlapping it, that blew me away, because I was connected to this larger perspective of spirit, this total consciousness that enveloped me, that for the first time really in my life, the physical challenge did not completely overtake me. I was connected at all times. It was just this beautiful, right amidst the uncomfortability and the pain, there was such joy. This is the type of thing that I've begun to experience more in my own life, that I share as best that I can. Yes?
Do you incorporate Reiki into sort of the spiritual healing, and I think just your practice in general, both for self-healing and for your children as well?
I've been to a Reiki practitioner several times, yes. Watsu Water, I've got many ideas, but yes, it's fabulous. And I think it'd be a great thing to teach your children. It's being taught right in Wilmette several times a year, close to where I live. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I know they actually offer, I'm a Reiki practitioner, but not a master level or a teacher, but I know that the woman that I work with will attune children. And I think it's really, my son is still too young, but I think it's a really beautiful thing to offer to your children in terms of like connecting with the spirit and offering physical healing and emotional healing, and just that consciousness at a really young age.
It's a beautiful example. That's exactly kind of what you've really hit on. Don't just save Reiki for yourself. If you're enjoying it, bring them in. Yeah, thank you for that.